All right. What's up, everybody? This is George CLC Samuels, and you are tuning in to episode 56 of the It Will Come Show. Now, again, I am tuning in live from my bedroom because many of us are either self quarantining, social distancing, as some of the terms are going right now, due to, of course, the global pandemic that's currently taking place. And on top of that, we are in a recession, as declared by the Bank of America and several other central banks around the world. And today I'm going to be talking about the Great Reset. So yesterday I just touched lightly on everything to do with pandemics, the recession, the potential of a Great Depression, etc. So today I am just going to touch on the Great Reset in general. So let me just take you to an article that I saw recently, which of course is just confirming what was already feeling was coming. There's just so many signals. So when I say feeling, it's a result of just a lot of information that has come through over the years. So here we have Welcome to the Great Depression 2.0. So this article is by David Llewellyn Smith, and it's actually a really decent article, just talking about what has led to where we are now, right, and why we are in store for another Great Depression. And the reason I bring this up is because it's important to learn from history. I think a lot of people right now seem to be blindsided, right? But if you take a look at the history of our economy in general, this was a storm that has been brewing for a long time. If you go back to 2008, when we had the first global financial crisis, then, I mean, right now, what's different between the 1920s and the 2020s is, I mean, that's crazy too. It's been 100 years. But the difference there is that, the world has never been as connected for at least our known history. And I think this is a very important point or factor to take in, considering, we have the internet. Things happen faster. I think the stock markets also plummeted faster than ever before. And it's, we're just going to have new scenarios. So, but on the flip side, this is just part of cycles. If you take a step back and look at sort of our planet and just how everything works, there's always sort of an expansion and a contraction. It's like the whole planet and even the economy breathes. And so if we've been taking on too much, treating the system, bloating it, pretending like everything's fine when it's not, and not just sticking to the basics, the fundamentals, then this was an inevitability. So, if you get a chance, do just have a Google search for this article and have it read, or I'll include it in the comments in the YouTube channel. And I'm going to bring up this other video as well. So this here is a video from our Great Reset event back in 2019. As you can see, the date is February 4th, 2020, which is crazily eerie because, we started promoting the event about not even that long before we did the event, maybe around January 15th to 20th. And then I was in Singapore, in January, of course, of this year, when we got word of the coronavirus. And, there were talks already about the coronavirus being the reset, or at least the spark that would, or the pin that would pop, the bubble that we've been in. And so, we talked about this a year ago. And at the time we were referring to Bitcoin SV. And we're talking about how in the crypto ecosystem, we were seeing a lot of micro to macro connections and trends. And so in the Bitcoin ecosystem, we were saying that, we veered off path. We needed to stick to the fundamentals, like the basics, to keep things simple, which we believe is happening through Bitcoin SV. But the entire crypto market and ecosystem just got so enamored by, quick money and essentially what we suffer from in our pseudo-capitalistic world. And with that, it's very important now to see how this is played out. And, I'm not the only one, though, who has sort of seen this. There's another guy named Mike Maloney. And he's somebody that And he's somebody that I've been following for years as well. Sometimes, some people call him a little bit of a fearmonger or a loony. But if you actually read his material, like many people in our world, try to get past sort of your own biases or what other people say. He's been warning about this for some time now, and he's been right again. He predicted the global financial crisis in 2008. He predicted the previous one, I think it was around 2002, and he's predicted this again as well. So I highly recommend you also follow him because you'll get an idea of like how to prepare during this entire time and what to look out for, the signs and the signals. Okay, so yeah, this event, if you haven't got a chance to, just look up via the Great Reset launch event, and you'll see sort of an overview of what we talked about. Here also, I actually shared this video on LinkedIn because it's about the Great Depression, 5-minute history lesson for those who don't want to do intense reading around history. But this gives you an idea of what we may be in store for. All right, so if you want a 5-minute breakdown, I think everybody should watch this and everybody should look back. Excuse me, man. Hoping that's not anything, right? Just looking at the history of the Great Depression, I think history always gives us lessons, and I think if we don't learn from history, then we're always bound to repeat them. So please, 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 during this time, a lot of people are losing their jobs. People I know already are losing their jobs, and if you haven't been preparing for this, it's really going to come down to your community to help one another out. But just to help minimize the amount of damage. Again, go look at history, learn what they did after, both during and after the Depression, so you can just incorporate that into your life right now. Another topic I want to talk about is this, right? So there's some people are starting to clue on, but I noticed this as well over the last couple months, is that CEOs have been quitting in record numbers. Could signal total stock market collapse, right? So this was February 28th, so that's about a month ago, and we are already on the brink of a collapse. Even with all the stimulus packages that are currently being deployed across every nation, it seems, please remember that this is probably only going to be a short-term fix, a band-aid solution, because in order to stimulate the economy again, right, they've had to print money. And what that will lead to is, if you study history again, similar things were done during like World War periods, right? And it is there to just help people temporarily, but there are serious long-term impacts, right, and consequences. So you really have to be mindful. And there's a lot of conspiracies around all of this about like why they've all been leaving in droves. But I always err on the side of caution when it comes to conspiracy theories, but I also don't not take them seriously. I just think that probably a lot of these CEOs, they're probably all in touch with one another, and they probably just said, hey, looks like now is probably a good time to get out, because if they are still at the helm of their companies when shit hits the ceiling, then it's going to be bad for their reputation. So from that standpoint, I can see why they would leave now. But the thing now is going to be what to do with all the people who are working for these companies. I mean, I think that's a real challenge, because a lot of people are being laid off right now, and it's definitely not fun times. But on the flip side, again, for those of you who've been watching, those of you who know me, I'm always the eternal optimist. And so with that, right, this also provides an opportunity. Okay, so with that, I'll share. God, I love ads. Give me 1 second. I don't want an ad. Okay, and with the opportunity, I'm sure you've been hearing about how Singapore is currently leading the world right now in terms of its ability to both respond to the coronavirus and what's happening and take action, right? So recently I got word via the Singapore government's WhatsApp group. So they have a WhatsApp group to keep everybody in direct contact, and it's been pretty good. And here, well, they just released something called Trace Together, and it's a Bluetooth-based application that helps people tag and identify anybody who has coronavirus. So as you can see here, right, it acts like a little device that if hopefully if people have the app open, they can actually be notified if they come into contact with somebody who's been identified as having contracted the coronavirus. Now, I've tried this already, and it's definitely a battery drainer, unfortunately, because it forces you to keep the app on and open all the time, and so it's using Bluetooth, which just sucks a lot of energy, power. But at the end of the day, if it can help you if you're going out, this might be a lifesaver, right? And might help you identify other people who have potentially been contracting coronavirus. So these are just some of the innovations that are coming out. It's so fascinating to see what solutions people are coming out with. And another one that's really fascinating, Slack Rise Corona. So with more and more people pushing to remote work, right? You can see here a lot of tools that remote workers have been using for a while now. Well, their usage has just gone up exponentially because now everybody's working from home and everybody's using these particular tools. So as you can see, Microsoft, Google, Zoom. I would say Slack as well. I don't know why they don't have Slack included there. So let's see if we can find it. Yeah, but Slack is just another tool or application that's used for messenger-based communication, and it's very popular. So its competitor is Microsoft Teams and Slack. Here we go. So we go to this article. Sorry that my computer is running slow. Don't know why that is. But yeah, have a look here, right? So Slack, as a result of people working from home, Slack is just now a lot more people are using it or signing up and trying to understand or learn how to use it. So from a remote work perspective, even we are seeing some really interesting things take place, right? So if I come back, so yeah, what this means is that for people who are currently being forced to work from home, they're now being forced to understand how these virtual tools work. And before, people kind of took digital transformation sort of makeovers for their company as potentially as a secondary thing, right? It wasn't that important. They still had their traditional office buildings. Everybody needed to come in and clock their time. But for a lot of tech companies that haven't made that transition, they are now being forced to transition over. And so, because with the It Will Come show, it's always been about communities and technology, right? And the It Will Come philosophy is about using patience and persistence to be able to bring whatever goal that you have towards you, right? But because I have an interest in communities and technology, I've always incorporated that. So now we're starting to see how online communities are becoming a big thing, and companies are wanting to learn how to build an online community to keep people together. And I wouldn't call, right now we're calling social distancing, right? Like keeping ourselves separated. But I far prefer physical distancing, because we shouldn't distance ourselves socially, even virtually, right? I think we should still very much do things socially online, but from afar. And this is going to be very important, because people are going to have to figure out, how do I actually engage with others in a way that keeps us sane during these times. And that's the real behavior that I'm looking at right now, and what is coming with this whole Great Reset. And some people are like going stir crazy while being home, but actually this has probably been the best thing for our planet as well, right? So I'm gonna show. Let me just come back. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, cool. So hopefully you can still hear me, right? Cool. So let's look at here. Italy clearing coronavirus. Okay, so I think it was a canal. Yeah, so have a look at this. Right? This is just amazing. Right? So as a result of everybody staying home, right, and not traveling, and all of these things, in Italy, the Venice Canal is now starting to run clear, and dolphins are appearing in Italy's waterways. Right? This is one of many instances of how our planet actually gets to heal itself as a result of this entire coronavirus. Right? So I'm just gonna close that. And so with that, it's just so amazing to see how something that we might see as like tragic, right? Like the economy's collapsing, having to be forced to stay home. I'm having to give up my freedom. I've been hearing that a lot on social media. But on the flip side, people we're now seeing the planet heal, right? I think NASA said that for the first time in a long while they're now able to see China through their satellites clearly without the pollution just floating over the entire country. And then for Italy, right, the canals are clearing up, dolphins are coming, and there are a lot of positives. So during all this, I know it may hurt a lot of people, but it's so important to remember the flip side, that during dark times, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And with that, I just want you to know that you're not alone. Stay strong during these times. Lean on each other, especially your local communities. If you haven't engaged, locally with the people around you before, try to. In some countries, they're communicating with each other from each other's balconies. Get creative, get innovative. You'll be surprised by how much you can do. And with that, as always, through patience and persistence, it will come.